Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and I'm deliriously happy and tired as I'm coming to you in the immediate aftermath of the Mexico-England game at the Azteca in Mexico City. I'm joined by Seb Stafford-Bloor.
Hello, Joe Devine.
Kaynak. Foof indeed, and Jon Mackenzie.
Is this a different podcast? Is it going to the end of the last podcast?
This is a second. Separate podcast.
That's a lot of podcasts.
It's 4:16 a.m. We've just finished watching Mexico 2-3 England. This is going to be a shorter show. Ordinarily, we would only do one show per day. But because there was a bit of a delay to the Mexico-England game, we talked about Brazil-Norway, we talked about Fuller and Balogun, we talked about, a couple of other things on an earlier show. So if you want to hear about that, go and listen to that one. This is just going to be 25 minutes on the England game against Mexico. So someone later will add music to this pause. Yeah! This is what Luke Brown wrote in the Athletic live blog here. England survived a red card, a late Mexican onslaught, and the fury of the Azteca to dump the co-hosts out of the tournament in a World Cup classic. That's the end of Luke Brown's bit. Now this bit's written by Joe Devine. Get ready for some delicious copy. You ready, John?
I'm ready.
Yes, okay. 2 first-half goals from Jude Bellingham were enough for England to go into the break ahead. A red card for Kwanzaa, a Kwanzaa challenge early in the... Now, it's not great copy. It's a poor reading of the copy as well.
That is hanky level copy.
Sorry. A red card for a Kwanzaa challenge early in the second half meant that England went down to 10 men, but Anthony Gordon won a penalty, which Harry Kane scored before Mexico converted a penalty of their own through Raul Jimenez at 69 minutes. The remaining 21 plus 11 minutes of extra time was largely England defending their own box. A heroic victory, Kaya, a difficult one. What was the story of this game for you?
The story of this game was stress, yet again, from an England perspective. It felt like in the early part of the game, Anthony Barry said this at half-time, their plan was to try and fill Mexico out. There's been lots of talk in the build-up as to how Mexico like to start fast, particularly at home in the Azteca. And England seemed to try to nullify that. It was very stop-start in the early exchanges. But then, and I know Seb hates me using this phrase, but in the second quarter, the game kind of got a bit of momentum. And Mexico had some really good chances, but England kind of sucker punched them on the counter-attack. The second goal was a second sucker punch. Can you be sucker punched twice?
I think you can be sucker punched twice, yeah.
Okay.
You get sucker punched once, you get back up, it happens again.
Yeah.
You think, when's the last possible time I'd be sucker punched? Immediately after being sucker punched.
That's true. Double suckers. But but Jude Bellingham with both those goals, and then England kind of probably felt like they were coasting towards a 2-0 lead at half-time. Even in the live chat, as we were doing our live stream, some people were commenting, take Rice off at half-time, take Saka off at half-time, rest them for the next round, and then Mexico get back into it with a goal from a set piece. And to be honest, after that, England are very lucky to go in 2-1 up, if not 3-2 down, with the chances that the Mexico had towards the end of the half, and Jordan Pickford pulling off some superb saves. And then, again, the game kind of resumes from where it left off in the second half, and England, it feels like they've got a few chances, and suddenly Jarell Kwanzaa, we all thought, at first viewing, it wasn't a foul, but it was a really...
Yeah, the normal TV broadcast angle made it look like it was a really good tackle.
Yeah.
And then on an immediate review, it was not a good tackle.
Yeah, it wasn't a good tackle. And, the technique at which Kwanzaa goes in is very high. It's over the ball, studs up. Also, in the position of the pitch it feels kind of needless force to go in with that level of aggression. I get he's wanting to maybe put down a marker and there's the atmosphere and all that, but it felt like it was a poor decision to go in like that. And it thankfully didn't cost England, because just as we're looking at the clock, thinking, blimey, this is more or less 40 minutes to defend a one-goal lead with 10 men. Yeah. England then go 2-1 up with some old-fashioned big man, little man up top. Harry Kane. 3-1 up, sorry, yeah. 3-1 up. It's 4:18 a.m.
4-1 up now.
Yeah. But, Harry Kane flicks it on to Anthony Gordon, who shows real amazing pace to get there and seize on the moment. Flicks it past the goalkeeper, who brings him down, and Kane doesn't miss from the spot. So, England then 3-1 up. Then you're starting to think, it's a 2-goal lead. We can kind of relax again. And then almost immediately straight after, Harry Kane gives away a penalty. Which I think was a penalty, just kicked through the back of the leg of the Mexican player. VAR intervening again. And Raul Jimenez, who's got a terrific record at penalties, both with Mexico and in the Premier League, dispatches that. And the last 25 minutes, as we said, are stressful. A different kind of stress to the DR Congo game. But yeah, it was
stressful.
It was rough. I've got a little bit of a stomachache, and I can't tell if it's because of the energy drink I drank just before kickoff.
Possible.
Or if it's the stress. Yeah.
Could be a combination.
The American pint of energy drink.
I will say just one word on Raul Jimenez, who scored a wonderful penalty, was a kind of menace in the England box, created many chances. I feel as though he's going to go to bed disappointed though, because he had so many chances to score in open play and he just couldn't quite make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, part of him will feel disappointed. Part of him will think I've come up against the goalkeeper in really good form. I think Pickford made some really good saves from some of the Jimenez shots. And there's one very early which Jimenez kind of almost folds his body like a lawn chair almost and kind of gets down low to head it. And it bounces up just before Pickford can get a hand to sort of swat it away.
Yep.
I think that was before any of the goals went in. That was at 0-0.
Yep.
And if that had gone in, it would have been a completely different game because England had not looked great in the first part of the game.
No.
And if they'd gone a goal down, then maybe. But yeah, Jimenez, I think, had a really good game despite missing those chances.
Well, John, in terms of how the game played out tactically, we did a live watch along. You came in at the hydration breaks and at half time, and you stayed with us for the second half of the second half. We talked about the idea that actually England were lucky in the sense that they didn't have to do loads to create their goals, right? Maybe they defended well, but perhaps they were lucky to score 3.
Yeah, I think they were gift wrapped a few of the goals, and had that not happened, then I think it would have been much harder to defend. I mean, obviously there wouldn't have been a lead to defend necessarily, but I think the fact that those goals were there gave them something to sort of bed in, and they obviously did a very good job of doing that.
They made the game state what it was, right?
Yeah, and they were able to, because they had that 1-goal lead, they were able to sit in the box, go back 5, absorb pressure and fight to keep it out. So yeah, that part of it was a really good performance. I think the first half was almost bafflingly bad from a tactical point of view for England.
Right.
What
did you see?
Well, I think it felt as though they were a little bit overawed by the occasion. One of the things we talked about a lot in the first half was how quickly England did try and press up at times. They did, but they weren't willing to commit players forward, and all that did really was sort of disconnect their front 3-ish from the rest of the team. They were easily bypassed, and so they then dropped into a lowish block. And once the press had dropped off, the wingers were basically allowing themselves to be pinned by the opposition fullbacks who were going really high up the pitch and almost joining that front line.
Yeah.
And as a result, it just meant that Mexico could control possession for most of the first half. And as you said, there was those 2 sucker punches where in one instance they were able to counter when Mexico went forward and generated a chance, and then they were able to counter-press, well, not even counter-press, but press on Mexico when they kicked off and got the goal that way. And at that point, I sort of felt, okay, this might calm them down a bit. This was, 38 minutes at 2-0. But they didn't. They continued to play in that way where they were very tentative, out of possession. And as a result, Mexico were able to control the ball for most of the first half. Now, in the second half, they were a bit braver. They clearly fixed a few of those issues. They were more willing for their wingers to cheat up in the press, and as a result, were able to control the game a little bit better. But then the red card comes pretty early on, and then it changes the game state again. And then from that point onwards, Mexico being very sloppy for that long ball and giving them the penalty. So in many respects, I think it's one of those ones where you look at it and you think, yes, the game state helped them, but I think on another day, if those goals don't come, then it could have been a very different story for England. That's not to take away from the fact that they defended really well in the final 30 minutes. But I think they'll look back on that when they're doing the analysis and think, we got the first half very wrong. Yes, we did fix a few problems. And fortunately, we had that goal lead, and then the 2-goal lead, which became a 1-goal lead again to defend. And so, yeah, it's a funny one. Like right now, everyone will be happy. They'll be happy.
Yeah.
You celebrate that, and you don't worry about the next few games. But I think when the coaching staff go into the analysis room and they break it down, they'll think it's another example of them coming into a game having a poor plan for the first half and kind of getting away with it in the second half. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we see going forward in the tournament.
Because we had another halftime interview from Anthony Barry, the assistant coach, who said that. Do you want to summarise it again? Seb essentially the first half kind of was okay.
Yeah, basically he said we kind of wanted to get to the first break at 0-0, which they did.
Right.
Then
the hydration break.
Then he said we've stopped Mexico from playing really well, which
not sure about that.
Debatable. I thought they were pretty good in the first half.
They were very good in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, but then he also said that I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of every minute is like the 90th minute. And he was kind of describing the frenetic pace and the energy of the game. And it was interesting analysis. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, fine. Well, let's talk about a couple of players. I mean, we'll start with Jude Bellingham, Seb, who has just been, England's player of the tournament, right?
Yeah, I talk about him tonight because I think this was the performance of Jude Bellingham's England career, just because there's two things you need in a game like this. The first is the quality to score the goals, which he obviously has. Then there's the intangible side of it, the ego side of it, where it gets really nasty. The conditions, the weather conditions, the altitude, but also the match conditions start to turn against you, and you need the ego of it, where someone just puts their shoulders out and goes, "Come on, let's go." And there was that to him from minute 0 to minute 113 or whatever, however long we lasted. Yeah. England don't get over the line without Bellingham, and what he gave tonight was kind of extraordinary. Which also, if you think of his narrative arc with Thomas Tuchel, when he was being left out of the England squad not so long ago, and he comes in and he is, alongside Kane, just a remarkable footballer in so many ways, because everybody knows his technique and his skill, but you see his physicality, his heart, his willingness to just keep going. Because listen, right, okay, I hear everything John said. England didn't play particularly well, but this is a place where nobody wins. Nobody wins there. And that was the conversation before. Look at their record. Look who they beat. No one ever goes there and wins. Look at the altitude. Look at the weather delay. England go down, then they win. Don't care about anything else. It doesn't matter. And Bellingham is a huge part of that. And nothing but respect for that performance. Amazing. Yeah.
We talked about that the other day, right? How, the people were talking about how Kane thrives on calmness, but we talked about how Jude Bellingham thrives on
chaos.
Yeah, right? He wants to be the antagonist in many respects, right? And I think that in a game like that's kind of what you want. That's when he comes into his own. When he feels that he's up against it and the world's against him, then that's when he usually performs. So I'm not that surprised to see him performing well in a game like this.
He also made were you going to talk about the stunning defensive clearance?
Brilliant. I was going to talk about the defensive effort generally, but that is one of the examples of how he ran himself into the ground. In the very last play of the game, Mexico were trying to get forward and Bellingham was trying to sprint back, but I think physically he couldn't do it anymore, because by the end he'd been pushed up front to play false nine, and also he played so many different. He started off sort of a kind of an attacking midfielder drifting slightly to the left, then got moved to the right wing after the red card because Saka came off. Then after Kane went off, for the last 20 minutes he was on his own basically as a false nine, a number 9, with various different Mexican defenders trying to hold up the ball, which is not really his game. And there's so much talk about.
He took a shot from the halfway line.
He did take a shot
from the halfway line, which I loved as well. I absolutely love the audacity to do that at that stage in the game. I think is part of what makes him him.
It would have been a lovely hat trick, I have to say. But he's someone who rises to these occasions, and we've spoken a lot about how England's squad has been built to play a certain kind of way, and there's a lot of focus on the tactics.
Yeah.
But I think, and we've seen this with other teams as well, and we spoke with Germany about how, and Brazil earlier today, about how maybe the reason they've gone out, you can talk about tactics all you like, but the lack of top quality individuals who can make a moment make a difference in the big moments. Brazil have it a little bit in Vinny Jr., but he didn't deliver against Norway. Mm-hmm. Germany haven't had it really at all. England have 2. In Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. And Jude Bellingham in particular tonight was absolutely outstanding. And you talk about tactics all you like, but when you've got individuals like that who can produce moments, I think those are the most important things probably when it comes to tournament knockout football.
I think Spot on. I think the great enemy in that situation is self-pity, right? Because you have all these things conspiring against you, and you have your excuses built in. And I'm old enough, I'm in my 40s now, I've watched enough England performances which have been taken over by self-pity and other sort of dark forces, nervousness, fear of tabloid reactions, that kind of stuff. The counter to that is character. And Kaya mentioned Brazil. In Germany, they've spent the last 4 days complaining about the lack of a Matthäus, of an Effenberg, of a Moller, Sammer, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
You need these guys in the team because they are the kind of players around whom everybody else gathers, and they're willing to say, right, well, it doesn't matter. This is happening. We're going to battle through it. It's actually very moving and affecting to watch because, given had England lost, the excuses write themselves.
Sure.
Altitude's too difficult. Can't do it. It's not possible. No one can do it. Right. Yeah. Red card, unlucky. It's Gerald Cancer's fault. How many times have we seen that in England?
Yeah.
Performance reduced to kind of that guy got himself sent off. Therefore, nobody else is accountable.
Yeah.
So just magnificent. That's why he plays for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of players have talent, but then you have these other parts of a player's personality, which mean that you can handle everything that comes with that sort of stage, and that's why he's so valuable to England. In the same way that someone like Harry Kane is so valuable to England, it's exactly the same quality.
The squad is very good, isn't it? I mean, we talk about the quality that the players have, but also when you think about them from the perspective that we're discussing them now. Okay, we've mentioned Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice also has that kind of ability to influence other players on the pitch, right? To influence his teammates. But we spent the whole first half talking about Elliot Anderson, who we haven't even mentioned yet, who I think had a fantastic game. Another player who had his best game of the tournament so far was Anthony Gordon. What did you make of his use, John? Obviously, there was more space for him to run into in this game, and in some ways, when England went down to 10 men, he was even more effective because he had a lot more running to do.
Yeah, and he's an outball, right? I think, and after the point at which the red card happened, that's what all England were trying to do, was just to find these outballs, be it Kane as a sort of aerial presence, or you said also Jude Bellingham later on. Morgan Rogers came on as well, but
relieve a bit of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea was always, I think, in the first parts of the game to have Gordon as that outball. They didn't find him very much in the first half for the reasons we've already described, which was he was getting pinned quite deep. And so England, that was part of the reason why England was struggling, because when they did win the ball deep, they didn't have any outlet to actually spring these attacks. But in the few moments where he was able to get forward, he was having a huge amount of impact. And as Kaya said, for the penalty that he won. Yeah. I mean, if England don't get that penalty, I think they don't win that game. So
no, I agree.
You can put the game down to him in that respect. That having him on the left line.
Play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's we've already talked about it. Mexico played really well today, but I think trying to overcome a deficit even against 10 men was going to be tough for them, because they don't have the players to do anything other than get the ball into the box and try and break down that low block. Yeah. And England box defended really well, but I think that they were able to do that because they were like, we know that they're not going to be able to cause us consistent problems, generate really dangerous chances. We know that when it comes to them swinging in crosses, we're going to be able to box defend well enough to do this.
We
and
never
again,
got Big Dan Burn.
Yeah, exactly. And that all, I think, stems from the fact that they had those buffers, those 2 goal buffers to be able to hold out. Or it took a Mexico penalty. They probably wouldn't have generated a chance as good a chance as that, obviously. Sure. But like a good chance other than that. And I think that gives you the confidence to go out there and be like, okay, we've given ourselves a really nice starting level to go from. And but I think a lot of that comes down to Gordon winning the penalty and giving that buffer.
Just on that box defending that John is talking about, I think it's really important that England have shown they can do that. So in the last half an hour or so, as stressful as it was, and you've mentioned this just there, John, Mexico didn't create too much, right? There wasn't any clear-cut chances. It wasn't like they were peppering the goal like they actually had been earlier on in the game.
End of the first half, they were.
Pickford was coming for crosses. He was claiming them really well, and England were defending and heading away. Yeah. And there's been a lot of criticism of the England defence in this tournament. I don't think England have ever looked particularly strong at the back, but I'd say in that last half hour, basically the whole team was geared towards defending, which they haven't been tactically in any of the other matches.
The defensive frailties they've shown in the tournament so far have been in defensive transition.
Yeah, and more individuals, but I think they've shown that they still have that from Southgate. They used to defend a lot as a collective in those kind of ways, and they've still kind of got it in them, and they can do that.
It in the DNA.
Which, hopefully, if they're up against bigger teams and there's leads to defend down the line,
they don't need to defend.
True.
Come now.
True.
They'll simply score more goals.
True.
Seb.
Yeah, so Joe, a couple of people mentioning in the chat that there's a little bit of an injury to Jordan Henson at the end during the celebration.
Really?
Yeah, so the reason we're not describing any details because we're still not quite sure what happened.
Okay.
And so we're just going to leave that. We are aware, and we're seeing the kind of the news reporting going on. But we will leave that alone until we know exactly what happened. But
okay.
Yeah, we are aware.
In some cases, even just reference to injury there, a good timing because, John, my next question is about the longer-term view for England's squad. I mean, Saturday is their game against Norway. So we'll talk about Norway in a second and where the matchups might be, what the game might look like. But with Quansah's red card, that's another issue in the right-back area. Yet another. I think it's the fourth incident now. The England ended the game, I think, with 5 at the back, but for a while they pushed Quansah out to the right and replaced with John Stones. There's some suggestion also from I was reading the live chat earlier that it's a big recovery week for England. Like the players will be exhausted after this game, flying back to Miami very soon.
Playing in Miami during the day as well, which will be hard work.
Which will be actually it's 5 p.m. isn't it? So late afternoon, right? So 10 p.m. UK time that game. So that'll be tough. That'll be tough as well. What do you think about the squad and rotations potentially? It's tough, isn't it? I mean, they're kind of running through players at the moment.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about how this squad is built in a certain way, but it feels as though apart from that game against Croatia, England haven't really been able to play the way they really want to play.
No.
Which I guess is worrying. And then on top of that, there has been a lot of... I mean, clearly a lot of these players are really having to dig deep. And the longer the tournament goes on... I mean, today, 33% possession for England. A lot of that running around off the ball defensively and having to do, a lot of long busting... Long busting?
Yeah, long busting.
Long busting runs.
Yeah.
That's going to take its toll. We've already seen Declan Rice, for example, is clearly carrying some kind of hamstring issue.
Yeah.
Jude Bellingham had to do a lot of running today. Harry Kane has had to do a lot of fairly thankless running as well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see how well the fitness side of things holds up.
What about the matchup with Norway specifically? Because obviously Erling Haaland is going to be a horrifying threat for anyone to face. But in terms of how Norway played against Brazil today as well, can you see the game playing out in any particular way?
I mean, interestingly enough, Norway were able to play a very low-tempo game against Brazil today as well. So you would think that their recovery would be accelerated as a result of that.
Yeah.
But again, I think the game that Norway played against Brazil will be very different to the one that they'll play against England.
Brazil gave them the ball for a start.
Yeah,
I thought England would want to be protagonists in that matchup.
Yeah, and I don't know that. I mean, it's actually genuinely quite hard for me to get my head around how England approached that first half. It was so surprising to me that even given what we've been talking about this whole tournament, which is England want to dominate with and without the ball, yet it felt in that first half that they were like, fine, we're just not going to try and dominate without the ball at all. I don't think that's going to happen against Norway. I think it will be back to business as usual, where they will try and be protagonists. But again,
back to altitude as usual.
Yeah, exactly. But then, if there is any sort of layover from that, hard game that they've just played, who knows what will happen? And I guess it will come down to how well they are able to recover from that. But I guess the worry against a team like Norway is that if you're worried about transition defending and you're up against Erling Haaland, then
Well, okay. One final question for the room. Thought for the neutrals. It was a tough watch for us. It was a fun game, though, right? So that was maybe one of the best games.
Great
of the
game.
Yeah,
great game. Up there with Argentina, Cape Verde. I have to say.
Yeah, had everything.
Oh, guys, just saw something horrible happen to my computer. You know, when you time your light mode and dark mode on your computer to the sun up and sun down.
Oh no!
My computer just went to light mode. That's terrible news. And I can see the daylight outside, which of course means only one thing. It's time for us to all go home. What a terrific result, though, for England. Well done to the England lads there. Good on you, fellas. And thanks to you, Jon Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I feel like I've worked quite hard tonight. You know, it's like.
Would you like me to? Yeah. Good job. You're an England lad.
Yeah, I am an English lad.
Well done. True. Well done to you.
Your lungs are busted.
My lungs are busted.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to bed.
Well done to you, Kaynak.
Thank you.
Thank you to you, Seb Stafford-Bloor.
Thank you, Joe Devine.
And thanks to our producers who stayed very, very late today, to James and to Jamie. Well done. We will be back tomorrow, unfortunately, for what will be a very exciting game.
Technically.
Today. We'll be back later today for Spain, Portugal. Spain, Portugal?
That's a great
My
game.
God, the bangers just keep coming, don't
That's a
they?
great game.
Bring on some mash, am I right? England! Just turn the stream off.